Imagine this scenario. An honest man makes a mistake and ends up in one of the toughest prisons in the US. The inmates bully him, unaware he's no ordinary prisoner. Bradley Thomas is a former boxer who now works as a tow truck driver at an auto repair shop. After delivering yet another vehicle to the shop, he is surprised to see his coworkers gather around him outside. His boss reluctantly admits that he has to lay him off. Bradley takes it surprisingly well. He takes his things out of the locker room and brings them to his car. One of Bradley's coworkers comes to say goodbye, sorry that they won't be working together anymore. Disappointed about the unexpected turn of events, Bradley drives home while listening to some music. While driving, he stops at the red light and observes a couple of criminals in a muscle car staring at him with interest. When Bradley arrives at his house, he notices his wife Lauren sitting in the car near their house, trying to cover up something as she didn't expect to see Bradley at this hour. He approaches Lauren in the car and finds a hickey on her neck. Enraged about the betrayal, Bradley takes her purse and looks into her phone. Having no other option, Lauren reluctantly admits that she's been cheating on Bradley. Ashamed and afraid, she wants to leave in the car, but Bradley angrily orders her into the house.
No, get in the house.
Unable to hold back his rage anymore, Bradley takes out his frustration at Lauren's car, dismantling it piece by piece in the most comical fashion. In the house, Bradley and Lauren talk about their difficulties. He stayed out late all the time, so his wife assumed he was cheating on her as well. They barely talked at all lately and slowly drifted apart. Admitting that it's partly his fault that infidelity took place, Bradley is willing to forgive her and gives her another chance. 18 months later, Bradley, fed up with working 9-to-5 jobs, turns to drug trafficking. One time, he goes into a poor building in a bad neighborhood and enters one of the apartments by giving the men inside the correct password through a speakerphone. Inside the apartment, he sends the package with drugs through a hole in a wall to a man behind the bulletproof glass, and he, in exchange, gives Bradley the payment for drugs. After counting the money, he departs. Bradley drives through the streets in his new expensive car. He is somewhat saddened to see a homeless drug addict on a bench, feeling guilty about the man's suffering. Bradley drives away from the city and leaves his car in the woods. He takes off a license plate from the car and hides the vehicle with a camouflage net. Bradley goes back to his luxurious suburban house with 2 cars parked up front. In the house, he is met by Lauren, who is now pregnant with their baby. The two are getting along very well now. In the most romantic manner, he carries her to the bedroom. But the romance is soon interrupted by a busy work life. Bradley receives a phone call and has to leave for work. He drives to a huge mansion for a meeting with his boss, Gil. Gil's daughter greets Bradley at the door. She tells him that Gil is downstairs in the room with the pool table. Downstairs, Gil makes fun of Bradley's reluctance to drink alcohol. As it turns out, he is a recovering alcoholic and only drinks carbonated water. Gil introduces Bradley to his new business associate Eleazar and his 2 men, Pedro and Roman, who will accompany Bradley in picking up the important shipment of drugs. Bradley refuses to work with Roman, one of Eleazar's henchmen, because he seems to be an addict himself, and Bradley doesn't trust his judgment. Gil takes him away and tries to convince him to go along with Eleazar's men by offering him 3 months paternity leave after his baby is born. Since he can't refuse his boss's order, Bradley reluctantly agrees to participate in a risky endeavor, despite his best judgment. Sometime later, the 3 men arrive to the docks to pick up the shipment of drugs. Not trusting Roman, who seems to be trigger-happy, Bradley orders him to give him his gun. This enrages the henchman.
Go against me and you 2 can swim out on your own and do the pickup.
Advised by Pedro, he reluctantly complies, after which Bradley throws the gun away in the water. They get into the boat and sail into the sea. While Bradley drives the boat, Roman and Pedro sit in the back and wait. Arriving at the designated coordinates, Bradley uses a flashlight to find the buoys floating in the water, indicating the exact spot where the shipment of drugs was hidden underwater. Pedro puts on a diving mask and dives underwater to retrieve the shipment. Using a flashlight, he finds a large chest. Pedro uses a bolt cutter to cut the chains that were holding the chest underwater. The chest goes up, after which Bradley and Roman lift it into the boat. Bradley drives the boat back to the docks while Roman uses his knife to retrieve the drugs out of the waterproof containers, after which he and Pedro get rid of the chest. After arriving at the docks, Bradley hears strange noises and realizes that the police are onto them. He quickly throws away a bag with drugs into the water and tells the other 2 to do the same, but they refuse and attack Bradley. The police arrive and order the criminals to surrender. Pedro and Roman open fire at them, and a firefight ensues. Seeing this, Bradley calmly walks away in a different direction. Enraged by the stupidity of the henchman that ignored his advice earlier, he changes his mind about leaving and approaches the gunfight, taking his gun out. As Roman and Pedro frantically shoot at the policemen with automatic weapons, Bradley comes closer and wounds Pedro. Roman opens fire at him, so Bradley takes cover in the water. One of the policemen finishes the wounded Pedro as defiant Roman continues firing at the cops. Bradley comes out of the water and aims his gun at Roman. He fires one shot at him, and then continues beating him up with the revolver, putting him on the ground. Surrounded and outnumbered, Bradley reluctantly surrenders to the police. After the violent ordeal, Lawrence Watkins, a police detective, questions Bradley. He is quite surprised that Bradley would go up against his own associates to save the lives of policemen. Watkins correctly deduces that Bradley is a patriot at heart and despises the drug dealers he was working for. He tries to persuade Bradley to cooperate and give up the names of his employers. Nevertheless, despite Watkins' best efforts to persuade Bradley, he is adamant that he won't give out any names as it goes against his own principles. Later, Bradley is visited by Lauren. He asks her not to attend his trial, as it will just make things harder for both of them. After the conversation with Watkins, Bradley expected to get a 4 or 5 year sentence for his crimes. Nevertheless, to Bradley's surprise, he is subsequently sentenced to 7 years in a medium security prison. The prison bus delivers Bradley to Franklin R. James Medium Security Detention Center. The new arrivals walk towards the guards at the entrance and tell them their names, after which they are put inside. Once inside, they wait in line to relinquish their personal belongings. The guard coldly orders Bradley to take off his wedding ring, as any kind of jewelry is not allowed inside. Annoyed with the cruel rule, Bradley reluctantly complies and takes off the ring. He angrily slams the tray when closing it, so the guard mockingly orders him to take his belongings and wait in the end of the line again. This time, Bradley holds himself back and does everything perfectly, so he is allowed to continue.
Enjoy your stay.
In the next room, 2 guards tell Bradley to get into a circle on the floor and unclothe, after which they conduct a cavity search, looking for the items prohibited in prison. After the humiliating search, Bradley meets Lefty, an experienced older prisoner who spent over 20 years in different prisons. He was given a task to show Bradley everything he has to know about this prison. Bradley is hesitant to talk about his past, so Lefty advises him to be open about what he did to get in prison, as the inmates might assume he did something that is frowned upon. Lefty takes Bradley to his cell block. Andre, a guard responsible for the block, tells Bradley the rules and advises him to follow his orders without question. From Bradley's appearance, he figures out he was a boxer in the past and offers him to participate in the prison boxing program, but Bradley refuses the offer. Lefty escorts Bradley to his cell. It's a private cell. He will be there alone, so at least Bradley will have some privacy. Frustrated, Bradley takes his rage out on the walls. He is further annoyed by the very small prison shoes he was given that hurt his feet. Before the night, Andre calls the prisoners in the block for a count. Bradley is late, so the prisoners and Andre are mad with him because they want to go to sleep and he delays them. During the night, Bradley can't sleep in his cell. Back at his house, Lauren is alarmed to hear the breaking sounds downstairs. It appears someone broke inside the house, so she rushes to close the door of her room and gets a gun. The assailants break her window and attempt to open the door. Despite Lauren's attempts to shoot them, they render her unconscious with tranquilizer darts and then kidnap her. In the morning, the prisoners leave their cell for another count. Lefty escorts Bradley to the infirmary where he meets Denise Pother, an officer in charge of industry assignments and visits. Advised by Lefty earlier, Bradley behaves respectfully towards Denise as his fate is essentially in her hands. She informs him that his wife had some complications in the pregnancy and her physician will come to prison in a few hours to have a meeting with Bradley and discuss the situation. After waiting in his cell, Bradley is escorted by Andre to the visitation room for a meeting with a doctor. Bradley is alarmed to find out that the man who came in to talk to him isn't his wife's physician, but a hitman working for Elizar known as the Placid Man. Through the phone, the Placid Man advises Bradley to keep quiet and listen carefully. Naturally, Elizar is enraged about Bradley's actions in the docks earlier because he lost $3.2 million worth of drugs. In retaliation, his henchmen kidnapped Bradley's wife. The Placid Man threatens Bradley that unless he settles the debt with his employer, their doctor will surgically remove the limbs of Bradley's unborn child and send them to him. However, there is one way in which Bradley can settle the debt. There is a prisoner named Christopher Bridge in cell block 99 in a maximum security Red Leaf prison that Elizar wants to be eliminated. If Bradley wants his wife and child unharmed, he will have to find a way to make the prison officials transfer him to Red Leaf, and then assassinate the target in cell block 99. Bradley reluctantly accepts the assignment. In order to get himself transferred, he suddenly attacks Andre on his way back to the cell and a brutal fight ensues. They go back and forth inflicting damage on each other, until eventually, Bradley puts Andre on the ground and breaks his arm. Armed guards arrived, tempted to shoot Bradley on the spot.
Give me a reason to turn your face into a cocktail.
They put Bradley in handcuffs and beat him up for what he did to Andre, after which they escort him downstairs. On the stairs, Bradley attacks the guards again. The three of them barely manage to put him down with pepper spray and a taser gun. As expected, the violent outburst results in Bradley being transferred to Red Leaf. The prison bus delivers him to the gates of the harsh maximum security detention center. Bradley is met by a squad of local guards armed with shotguns, followed by the warden, a rather unique prison warden named Tugs, who does things his own way, quite different from other prisons around the country. He openly threatens Bradley that, at the first sign of trouble, he will be shot on the spot without hesitation. He further humiliates Bradley by throwing away his belongings and ordering him to take off his clothes and be subjected to a cavity search right here near the gates. Inside Red Leaf, the guards escort Bradley to his cell. The pathetic state of the cell makes it barely livable. The guards tell Bradley that he will get a different cell if he behaves. Disgusted by the horrific stench of the toilet that has been clogged for years, Bradley puts his shirt over his nose and mouth. Later, the guards escort Bradley to the yard. He befriends a local prisoner, Derek, who explains to him the hierarchy of inmates in this prison. He reveals to Bradley that cell block 99 is isolated. It is comprised of the worst criminals doing life sentences. Bradley needs to be reassigned to cell block 99. Despite Derek's warnings, he confidently approaches the leader of a local Mexican gang and starts insulting him and his men.
Want to start some stuff?
Amused by his boldness, they don't take him seriously. So Bradley attacks them, knocking the leader and his right-hand man to the ground. The rest try to attack Bradley with metal pipes, but the brawl is soon stopped by gunfire from the guards above them. Ordered by the guards, Bradley and his opponents walk away from each other. Enraged by the wounds Bradley inflicted on his friend, one of the men still tries to beat up Bradley, but he easily defeats him. Guards approach Bradley and order him to put his hands up. Trying to get into cell block 99, he goes as far as attacking the guards, but has to stop because Tugs has a gun aimed at his head. As expected, Bradley is going to be put in cell block 99. The guards put a bag over his head and escort him through a passage hidden behind the bookshelf into a dungeon. They mockingly throw him down the stairs. Tugs reveals that cell block 99 officially doesn't exist. Here, Tugs and the guards torture the criminals that are without any hope of rehabilitation for their own amusement. Throughout the entire ordeal, Bradley keeps his silence, confusing Tugs and the guards who don't understand his motivation for acting this way. They put a locked belt on his body that will electrocute him every time he misbehaves, after which they escort him inside the cell block. In his new cell, Bradley finds out that the entire floor is filled with broken glass. Tugs mockingly pushes the electrocuting button, forcing Bradley to fall down and injure himself on the sharp pieces of glass. Meanwhile, the placid man goes back to the basement, where the tied-up Lauren is kept and makes more pictures of her. She begs the hitman to spare her child's life, but he coldly dismisses her. In his cell, wounded and exhausted, Bradley starts shouting Christopher Bridge, the name of his target. Other prisoners of cell block 99 yell back that there is nobody named Christopher Bridge here, and never was. For yelling in the block, Bradley is immediately electrocuted by the guards. They arrive at his cell later and take him out of it, electrocuting him a few more times for disobedience. They then order him to proceed down the hall to another cell, where he meets his old acquaintances, Elazar and Roman. The guard leaves, giving Elazar a button to electrocute Bradley. Elazar reveals that because of Bradley, he and Roman are now in prison, and Pedro, who was a member of his family, is dead. So, naturally, he and Roman hate Bradley and intend to torture him for years to come for what he did to them. Eleazar further reveals to Bradley that if he attempts to fight back, his wife's abortion will happen immediately. They brutally beat him up, making him lose consciousness, after which the guards drag unconscious Bradley back to his cell. In the morning, severely beaten and exhausted, Bradley is awakened by electrocution. The guards give him some food. While eating, Bradley has a friendly conversation with a prisoner from the neighboring cell. Later at night, the guards come down to take Bradley to Eleazar again. Once outside the cell, he suddenly attacks the two guards, knocking them to the ground. They struggle for a shotgun. Eventually, Bradley takes the gun, but it's jammed, so he takes one of them hostage and starts choking him and orders the one to give him the keys before his friend suffocates. The guard reluctantly gives Bradley the keys. He puts the two hostages inside his cell, closes it, and takes off his restraints. The friendly prisoner from before wishes Bradley good luck, after which he takes a police club and departs. Bradley arrives at Elazar's cell and starts fighting one of his henchmen. Despite the henchman's impressive fighting skills, Bradley puts him to the ground. He then goes against Roman and the other henchman. Bradley easily defeats the henchman. Eleazar announces that he's about to call the doctor to go ahead with the abortion. While he makes the call, Bradley is engaged with fighting Roman. Bradley brutally beats him up and knocks him to the ground. Eleazar reveals to Bradley that he ordered the abortion to take place unless they hear from him in 10 minutes. Bradley attacks Eleazar and starts torturing him, trying to coerce him to call off the procedure. He then takes his phone, calls the placid man, and lets him hear the moaning noises Eleazar makes while he continues beating him up. Eventually, Eleazar reluctantly agrees to call off the abortion. Following Eleazar's orders, the placid man stops the doctor barely in time. Bradley puts Eleazar into his cell. Tugs and the other guards arrive. Bradley informs them that he's waiting for a call and threatens to finish the two guards and Eleazar if Tugs tries to interfere. He swears to turn himself in as soon as he receives the phone call. Tugs reluctantly agrees. The placid man and the doctor drive Lauren to Gil's house. Once they arrive, the placid man orders the doctor to release her while he aims a gun at Gil. Lauren is okay. She takes cover behind Gil. As the placid man slowly drives away backwards, Gil retrieves a hidden rifle and guns down the two in the car. In the most comical twist, Lauren takes the gun from him and finishes the wounded doctor who wanted to abort her baby. Gil makes a phone call to Bradley, informing him that Lauren and the baby are safe now. Lauren talks to Bradley. In a heartbreaking moment, he talks to the baby through the phone, telling her that he wished he was there watching her grow up, but unfortunately, he can't. After the phone call, Bradley goes back to his cell while Tugs keeps asking him what's going on. Bradley kills Eleazar. The guards come in, aiming their guns at Bradley. Ordered by Tugs, Bradley surrenders and puts his hand over his head. Despite that, Tugs aims his revolver at Bradley and executes him. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.